All right, the 4th of July weekend in Atlanta was violent and deadly. 31 people shot, 5 killed, including an 8-year-old girl. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp responding by declaring a state of emergency and deploying the National Guard to the state capitol. The governor saying, quote, peaceful protests were hijacked by criminals with a dangerous, destructive agenda. This lawlessness must be stopped and order restored in our capital city. And as you know, Atlanta is just one of numerous cities facing an explosion of crime. It's discussed with former New York City Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik and former Chief Assistant U.S. Attorney and Fox News contributor Andrew McCarthy. Great to have both of you back.
Thank you.
Shannon.
Okay, so we're hearing a lot. We want to put up this New York Post cover calling out the mayor there, Bill de Blasio, saying you got to do something. And editorial goes on to talk about a number of things they think would help the city right now, including bringing back the plainclothes anti-crime unit that the police shut down, stopping the COVID compassionate jail releases, and also repealing that no bail law that's allowing people to get out right back on the streets after they've just been pulled in for some of this trouble. Bernie, what do you make of the situation as it stands tonight in New York, and can it be remedied?
Well, it could be remedied if the mayor and the governor combined did exactly what you just said. The anti-crime removal, the plainclothes guys that act as chameleons that go into the communities in plain clothes to look for guns and robberies in progress and shootings in progress. When you pull them out of the streets, you're going to see major spikes in shootings. Shootings lead to murder. And violent crime across the board is going to rise. So all the things you just mentioned should be done. But you actually need leadership at the top. You need a mayor that's going to support the men and women in the field. And this mayor is just not going to do that. He's proved himself over and over. He's not going to do that.
Well, we do know that there are different things the feds can do and they can't do, which is where we'll bring in Andy here. San Francisco Chronicle talks about federal charges now being filed against 7 protesters in Portland, Oregon, where they've been demonstrating for 40 consecutive nights, increasingly focusing their actions on federal properties in the downtown core, including the Hatfield Federal Courthouse. Andy, you wrote a piece today saying, though, a lot of this, and when you're talking about violent street crime, that's up to the state, it's up to the localities. So what can the feds do and not do to try to shut down some of this activity?
Well, Shannon, when you have a situation where the presumption that the rule of law is going to be enforced is lost, and the big problem is local street crime, violent crime, the federal role really has to be supportive. That doesn't mean it's insubstantial. It can be in the lead when you have things like you just described, where they're attacking federal property or federal personnel, or if it's a terrorism situation, there's a lot that the feds can do. But for the most part, when you're talking about violent crime, the police in the local community are a much more important factor, and the state government, than the federal government. For example, there are 3 times more New York City cops than there are FBI agents throughout the whole country. Mm-hmm. So, and that's just in New York City alone. So I think there's a lot that can be done when we work together. And thinking about what you were just discussing with Bernie, right after the 9/11 attacks, which was another situation where we had a potential breakdown of order, that didn't happen. And it didn't happen precisely for the reasons that he alludes to. You had, unity of support from the political leadership, the police commissioner, the U.S. attorney, the courts, and we pulled together and worked together. And that, I think, is what's lacking now.
Yeah. I want to read this headline from the Washington Examiner. Shootings in the New York City area up 205% in weeks since the disbanding of the plainclothes unit compared to last year. Quote, I feel like we're giving the streets back to the criminals, said the mother of one shooting victim whose son was shot just days after the unit was disbanded. Quickly, Bernie, what's your message to that mom and other moms and dads suffering out there tonight because they've lost their kids?
The message is put it on your political leaders. Go after the political leaders. Go after the Democrat leaders in these cities where the violence is the highest. And I have to touch on something Andy that he wrote about, Shannon. When I was in narcotics, 1988, 89, 90, I had hair down the middle of my back, 7 diamond earrings, a goatee. Every week, 1 day a week, we had Federal Day. He wrote about this. We had Federal Day. Everybody that got locked up for gangs, guns, drugs, shootings, and violence across state lines, They got charged federally. They didn't go through a turnstile justice system. They got locked up and they went to prison. That's what they should be doing now in Chicago, Baltimore, Atlanta, and other cities, including New York City. Now's the time to do it.
We'll see if they can get some agreement on that. Bernie and Andy, thank you for sharing your experience with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.